Now, I'm sure by the time you've seen this video, you have at least checked out Five Nights at Freddy's Ruin, or at least heard about it. Basically, FNAF RUIN kinda saves Security Breach in the franchise as a whole. Kinda would compare it to something like Sonic Frontiers, where the previous game before the newest release had flopped really badly, and the newest game had kinda redeemed the franchise. Anyways, we're not here to talk about how RUIN saved FNAF or how good the game is. No. Today we're focusing on my favorite and one of the most emotional sections of RUIN, the final 15 minutes of the game. Now, normally, I would split a video essay into sections, but since this all happens at once, we're just going to put it into one big section. The final 15 minutes, or what I like to call the final curtain call, begins once Gregory confirms to us that we're going to have to get Roxy up out of here. At the time, it would make sense since Roxy is kind of looking for Gregory so she can assassinate him. However, given the full context, we know that the Mimic probably knows about Cassie's connection to Roxy, and since the Mimic is probably planning on hunting down Cassie after he is freed, he would need to get Roxy out of the way so she wouldn't be able to protect Cassie. So we unfortunately have to take down Roxy, and while it didn't seem like that big of a struggle at first, the moment we find out how connected Roxy is to Cassie, it kind of feels more harder to deal with. I think Cassie's connection to Roxy feels a lot more closer than Gregory and Glamrock Freddy, because while Gregory and Glamrock Freddy meet in one night, and Glamrock Freddy knows nothing about Gregory, Cassie and Roxy have met several times before and know more about each other. Furthermore, Cassie had been alone for the entirety of RUIN, having to deal with everything herself, while Gregory had Glamrock Freddy to lean on for the majority of Security Breach. That's not even all. After rewatching this a few times, you'll notice that her ears perk up after she talks about Cassie's special day, and that's such an adorable detail that makes the scene even better and much more sadder to watch. Unfortunately though, we have to disable Roxy, and then we get to the build-up for the big finale. Following this, we spend over 5 minutes traversing through the Pizzaplex with no more obstacles in the way. It is incredibly silent, and we do not hear any more music in the background as we continue to go lower into the Pizzaplex. What makes this even worse to watch is that Cassie cries after she loses Roxy, and as we think about what we just did, we reach the old FNAF location, and those who have seen the Burn Trap ending know that whatever is lurking down here is not good. This is not the end though, as we go into a tunnel that leads to an underground cave, which looks extremely beautiful yet extremely ominous. Genuinely, this is one of my favorite places in Security Breach because it looks so extravagant. We continue traversing, and the question is brought up, how did Gregory get so far down below here? There's layers upon layers in the Pizzaplex, so how did Gregory get locked at the bottom of the Pizzaplex? Either ways, we continue and we come across an abandoned caddy cadet who tells us a story that makes the situation even more unnerving. Little fun fact here, me and Pedro were in a call and while he was streaming RUIN, and while he was getting coins for Candy Cadet, I was just reading out Mimic lore and how he came to be. But more on that later in the video. Anyways, we reach a long staircase that has this insanely beautiful yet tense lighting like anything could jump out at any second. Finally, after all this trekking, we reach the bottom where we come across Mixie's one last time before his security protocol is stopped completely and he's sent out of the Vanny mask, I believe. And finally, we do one last conduit before we free Gregory finally, and the biggest reveal in RUIN and one of my favorite characters in the FNAF franchise is introduced. Obviously, you can tell who it is from the thumbnail and from Twitter because it went trending. That's right, it's the Mimic. For those who actually read the books, this is one of the few times where reading the books was actually building for the next game, and it was an incredibly satisfactory payoff.
What are you?
Yes!
Run!
That's him! That's the guy!
Surprisingly, Roxy saves us and fights the Mimic, and I don't even know how she got all the way down there. But then she appears to be dismantled from the sounds we hear. The real Gregory this time chats to us and tells us that we've been baited. Then we get this super awesome chasing, which is far superior than what we got in any other ending in the original Security Breach. Of course, since this is a DLC, there isn't much endings, but there are 3 different outcomes. However, we will be focusing on one that seems like nothing at the surface, but is incredibly horrific once you think about it more. The Brazil ending. Now, this sounds completely insane and out of nowhere, but first we have to explain the reasoning for the title. Brazil is a 1985 dystopian film following the events of Sam, our main character. I'm not gonna focus too much into it because I don't want to detract from the main point here, but the thing I want to focus on is the ending, where the main character is punished in a torture chamber and escapes with his friends and sees the love of his life that he previously watched die in front of him. Until we find out that it was all an illusion and that Sam basically went into complete insanity, and the people torturing Sam just give up and head out, leaving Sam alone with his delusions in the torture chamber. Now, how does this crazy ass movie yet incredibly interesting movie movie relate to FNAF RUIN, you may ask? Well, many believe that Cassie used the vending mask after she found a spot to hide, which shows what you want to see, to imagine that she escaped the Pizzaplex with Gregory when what really happened was that she was rotting inside of a cave alone and kinda going insane. But yeah, FNAF has had its dark moments, but I don't think anything has ever hit this hard like this ending. I mean, it's not insanely dark, but it's kinda depraved and sad. Now, I was originally gonna show my theory on it, but it might cause some misconception, and it's not very accurate, so I decided to go with the main theory that people believe is true. Anyways, I don't want to close off this video on a note like this, so I guess we can talk about the other ending as well. After Gregory betrays Cassie in the elevator, we find out in the credits that Roxy most likely survived with Cassie, so we could see these two in the future game or even in the next game. Going back to the main point of the video, as you can tell, there are a lot of emotions that the player most likely feels during the final 15 minutes. Sadness, anger, or pure terror from the twists and turns that we come across. Anyways, that's where we stop today for this video essay. Glad to be back after almost a month of a break, and I have some fun videos coming for 2023 and beyond. I'll see you again soon for the next video. See ya!